Alumni Engagement Coordinator from the Founders Society, which is our student ambassador program on campus. And for some of our more experienced alumni, this used to be known as Crown and Sword. It's been a wonderful experience so far, and I'm really happy to be here with all of you this evening. So tonight we are kicking off a year-long celebration of 50 years of St. Michael's College being a co-educational institution. In the fall of 1970, 23 female undergrads joined over 400 men to become the first co-eds on campus. We are fortunate to have 4 of those female students here tonight. Louise Stafford, if you want to give a little wave. We have Carol Johnson, Carol Dixon, and we also have Rosario Gongora. There she is. They each have their own unique stories to share with, which we'll get to in a minute. But before we begin, I'd like to thank the 50th anniversary of Women at St. Michael's Committee, led by Angie Moore, who is the Director of Alumni and Family Engagement, who spearheaded tonight's event. I would also like to thank Liz Scott, the college archivist, for creating a timeline of historical events and achievements by women at the college. I invite you to visit this webpage that I'm going to send now in the chat. So thank you for everyone who submitted questions for our panelists. We got so many, so I will try my very, very best to get to all of them tonight. We have about an hour with our panelists, so before we get to our questions, we're just gonna have each of our panelists tell us a little bit about yourselves, including your name, where you're originally from, how you came to St. Mike's, and what you did after St. Mike's. So if you can each take about 5 minutes, that'd be great. And then we'll get to the attendees questions. So let's see, Carol Dixon, if you wanna start us off.
Hi, I was Carol Boticello before I was married, and I attended Vermont College, originally from Bloomfield, Connecticut, went to Bloomfield High School. Decided to enroll was accepted and decided to enroll at Vermont College in Montpelier. Loved it, graduated with an associate's degree, and knew that I wanted to stay in Vermont. And that was the fall that St. Michael's was recruiting women. With that in mind, I had also been to St. Michael's a couple of times for theater events and was thoroughly impressed with what I saw there. So I decided to apply. We were told that there would be approximately 100 women that fall out of approximately 400 students. And I thought, 25%, I can handle that. Mm-hmm. And applied and was accepted. And then we enrolled and were there for orientation, and we all moved in, and there were 23 of us.
Wow. Cool. That's crazy. I know when I saw that number, I was like, wow, 23. And it's crazy to hear that they gave me a number. But
as a result of attending St. Michael's and the inspiring influence of some of my professors there, I decided that I had to go into education. Became an English teacher and retired 5 years ago after having a wonderful career teaching English literature. So I'm really thankful for that type of inspiration.
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Carol Johnson, if you would like to give us your little story.
I heard of St. Michael's College while I was attending Western High School, and located in Washington, D.C. I'm a native Washingtonian, and I attended, they call them magnet schools now, but at that time it was called a model school. So it was a school that was set up for kind of an accelerated education experience. And so that's how I heard about St. Mike's. And then pretty much the same thing. I applied, I was accepted, and I began my matriculation that fall at school in Vermont, which was very interesting. And then I stayed there for a year. It was quite a cultural change for me, as you might well imagine. And then I went to Howard University. I graduated from Howard University with a degree in history and a minor in secondary education, which of course led me into teaching. And then I got a master's degree in counseling and mental health, and I became a counselor. I recently retired as a counselor and have really had a good life.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. Louise Stafford, would you like to go?
Hi, I have the same information as Carol Boticello Dixon, actually. She and I went to high school together. We went to Vermont College together, having no idea that we were going to be there together. And when we got to St. Michael's, it was like, oh, this is really weird. Okay. But I wanted to stay in Vermont also. I did not want to come back to Connecticut, which is where I'm from. And we arrived, as she said, with 23 of us on campus, and the Crown and Sword, I have to not call them Skull and Crossbones, helped us move into our dorm. It was definitely an experience. And I finished at the end of 2 years in June of 1972, having majored in English and political science because I was trying to do pre-law. And I actually ended up marrying one of our classmates. We moved to Mexico for several years and came back, and we had 3 children together. And I now have 3 children in 3 time zones, which with COVID makes life no fun, but at any rate. And I spent the better part of my working experience, I can't really call it a career, my working experience in real estate, 26 years. And I retired in November, this past November, after 20 years with RE/MAX in one particular location. So here I am.
Wow. Well, we're happy you ended up on this call with us tonight. And last but not least, we have Rosario. How are we doing with the technical issues?
Can you hear me now? Oh boy.
Echo chamber.
Okay. Let me just give you a little hypnosis, I guess, of this. Is it gonna work out?
So what I'm gonna suggest, yes, is if we just, all of us right now on the panel, mute ourselves, and then I think that might.
Okay, can you hear me now?
The echo chamber.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you. It's a little echoey, but if you just want to give a little snippet, we would love to hear you.
Okay, you want me to say something? Okay.
This is all new to us, so I totally understand if you want to mute yourself. And I mean, some of you know Rosario better than I do. If you kind of want to just give a little rundown, I'm not sure, or if he wants to do it, that's totally fine as well. But
Okay. Okay, I am muting myself. Okay, I came to St. Michael a year before it became co-ed, and it was a surprise. Can you hear me? Okay. I didn't know it was going to be a male college. So it was a very big surprise when I walked into the cafeteria. But it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot of English. I mean, I'm always going to have an accent, but it's just been a lot of fun. And I wish I went back. I wish I could go back to those years. Sorry.
Thank you. Rosario, we're actually getting a lot of input from the chat right now. If one of our watchers just said, it might help if you turn down the volume on your computer and only talk over the phone. So if you lower your computer volume and then just listen on the phone, that might help, but we'll take and see what happens. If you just unmute the phone, I'm not sure, but we're so happy you're here. Anyways,
Okay, I put it at 0.
a little bit better. We are so glad you're here though, so thank you so much, and don't sweat it. We are just happy that you're here and you're in our presence right now. So thank you, all 4 of you, for being here. We're so happy. I think this is an amazing event. And so I guess we can segue into some of the questions submitted by our attendees. So my first one's actually for Carol Dixon. In hindsight, would you do it all over again? If yes, what advice do you give your younger self about navigating your time at SMC? I can't hear you if you just want to unmute.
Okay.
There we go. Perfect.
Okay. Absolutely. I would do it all over again. What would I tell my younger self? That it would be worth it. It would be well worth it. In the future, it was a life-changing experience, both challenging as well as fulfilling, that has helped make me the person that I am today. So I wouldn't have changed it for anything.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Does anyone else feel compelled to answer that question as well, or should we move on to a next one?
Oh, I think that Carol speaks for everybody when she says, well, I shouldn't say that, but yeah, we would all do it. We would do it again. I mean, she and I came from an all-female college, 2-year school, to an all-male 4-year school. And we learned things that we did not expect to learn. The phrase, the glass ceiling, did not exist when we were in college, but we certainly met it. And so many things that we learned that had nothing whatsoever to do with classroom studies, just about life and what came to be experiences in corporate America and so forth and so on down the road. So it was I think it was a good preamble to the real world.
Great. I agree. That's perfect. So our next question is actually for Carol Johnson. It is from a 92 grad, so class of 92, and they are asking, they said, as a father of 2 young girls, I can't help but think that I would be apprehensive to send them off to a college as the first female students of the school. What were your parents or family members' feelings at the time?
Wow, what a question.
Mm-hmm.
My father was ecstatic. He was very happy to get me out of Washington, D.C. I think the thing is by going to a school that's a magnet program, the expectations for us was much higher academically than maybe other kids in my neighborhood. So I think the expectation was set. When I went away to school, I don't think there was any, maybe 1 or 2 other people in my neighborhood actually went away to college. And so that was a pretty big deal, that in and of itself. I'm sorry, what was the rest of the question?
So it says, what were your parents or family members' feelings at the time? Were they apprehensive to send you off, or were they excited? Just basically, what were your family's thoughts, and how did they feel sending you off as a first female?
Like I said, my father was ecstatic. My family, I don't remember my family really having feelings one way or the other, because I was just kind of like, I was so out of the box in terms of what else was available to kids around me. So there were only a couple of us that were kind of going outside of the neighborhood expectations, so to speak. So I think a short answer is they were excited, they were ecstatic, they were looking forward to my having this experience. I think that's how they felt.
And that's great. I'm so glad to hear that, because I imagine, as the question stated, that being the first females at the college, a lot of family members may have been apprehensive, but I think that's great that they were so supportive of you, and I love to hear that. So we can segue to the next question. So this is actually for you, Louise. We've got a lot of questions like this, so if you all kind of want to give your experience as well, after Louise, that would be great. So this question says, did you experience any resistance from men? Were they welcoming? How does it feel to be a trailblazer?
Should I tell my Frank Bryant story, girls? When I was stammering before about what my major was, I went into St. Mike's thinking I was going to be a political science major and ultimately go to law school. And there was a professor there at the time who basically said to me, Stafford, you don't belong here. You come to my class, you fail. Women are only here to get their MRS. Now, I used to be a blonde, okay? It took me a minute to realize what an MRS was. And I marched myself over to the dean's office and I said, we need to change my major. This guy's class is required. He's already told me I'll never pass it. So we changed my major to English and I just skirted right around him. We learned how to do that at St. Mike's. We learned how to skirt around obstacles without creating a whole big brouhaha over it. And it turned out to be, at least for me, turned out to be very essential information. A good skill, not something you learn in the classroom.
Right. I mean, someone just asked in the chat, they said, did that professor, did he keep his job?
Oh, he did, absolutely kept his job, because this was the norm back then. You can't do that stuff now. I mean, I don't think we had that much static from the guys per se. There were a lot of guys that didn't think we should be there, but they were not quite as bold in their delivery as this guy was, because he had the power. I mean, his class was required and he said, yeah, you're not coming through here.
Right. So that's crazy. Someone also responded to your answer of him being kept at the school. They said boo in all capital letters. So
yeah. Well, that was life then. It's not like that now, but it was then.
Right. Well, so our next question is for Rosario. If you want to give it a shot, we'd be happy to hear from you. If not, anyone can answer this. So this question says, what was the most difficult part of being the first female students on campus? Who/what really helped you?
Okay. I didn't have any problems. I didn't have any problems at all. It was a lot of fun. And Mr. Lacharite, he was one of the instructors from the international school that helped me a lot. Mr. Baida. I don't remember all the names, but Mr. Lacharite was great. I mean, they just, I would do it in a second again.
Don't you think that the best answer really was going to the cafeteria, though? I mean, come on.
That's scary.
We all went through it.
Yeah.
Going to the cafeteria was a life-altering experience for everybody.
So we went in groups. We
never went alone.
We never went alone. There were cat calls. Really? We went in groups from North Campus.
Interesting.
You walk into a place and 400 sets of eyes do this. You know, you learn very quickly, don't go by yourself. First of all, you have no idea where you're going to sit, who you're going to sit with. And then there's safety in numbers. But even the foreign students went through the same thing that we did.
What was really interesting, though, was that the following year, we had petitioned for breakfast in our dorm. We never thought we'd get it approved. But somehow they approved sending us the bacon and eggs, and we ended up having breakfast in 1202 every Friday morning. Who remembers that?
Not me.
Oh my goodness, you don't remember the breakfast?
Oh.
Yes, it took a lot of petitioning, but we got it to work. Yep, we had breakfast on North Campus.
Well, don't you think that it's sort of interesting to mention, because I know we've done this in the past, that when we lived in building 800, AKA Linehan, that there was a jail in the basement? I mean, these are not things that normal college kids run into. We've told
Right.
the story often enough, and again, the students look at us and go, there was a what in the basement?
Well, that's because it used to be the PX.
Right, because of the Army base, because of
Right,
Fort,
the Army National.
Fort Ethan Allen, is that what it is?
Yes.
Right. Mhm.
So going off of that, I guess, did you experience any animosity, so sexism or racism, from the male students or professors, or just anyone on campus for that matter? If Carol Johnson, if you want to answer that one, or
There were five African American females that came to the school that year, and all of us came from that same kind of school. You know, wasn't my school, but that's kind of accelerated education kind of, and like I said, the expectations were really high for us. What I don't think we understood was we were going to college. And like my dad told me, when you know, I could either have a social life, or I could study and go to school. And I always chose to go to school. So I didn't really realize until I got to St. Mike's that, I'm not going to have a social life. You know, so there wasn't going to be any dating. There wasn't going to be some of the things that the other girls were doing. We weren't going to be able to do, because at that time the races weren't really mixing, not like they're doing today. You know, although I told Louise there was this guy named Chip. And
You have to have Angie figure out who Chip is.
I think that should be Angie's job, to figure out who Chip is. All I remember his name was Chip, and I remember we kissed, and I remember touching his hair, and I had
Carol,
Yes.
I know who Chip is.
You?
You do?
John Joseph, the Powers the Third.
I
have a picture, and I sent it over there to Molly.
Okay. Oh, great. And,
sorry, go ahead.
50-year mystery's been solved.
Oh,
that's
sorry.
wonderful. That's wonderful. I remember touching his hair, and I'd never touched a white person's hair before, and it was all silky. And I was like, oh, wow, this is a new experience. And so that was it. I can honestly say that I either I didn't pay attention to it, but I just didn't feel from anyone that sense of racism, probably because I'd always been one from 12 years old on. I'd always been in a very integrated school.
You see the picture of Rosario's holding up here? Is this your guy?
I can't see it.
I actually have a slideshow of all the pictures you ladies sent in, so I could share my screen now, and maybe Chip made it in. So
No.
I'm gonna do that now, so we can
That's awesome,
take a
Rosario.
look and see. So this is just a slideshow. The pictures are gonna go automatically. So if it strikes any memory, or if you see Chip,
how would I know what he looks like?
I know.
Oh, no, you didn't make that the first one.
There it is.
Oh, there it is. Yay.
Oh, my father was so angry with me with that picture because I had that afro, and he didn't send me to college to have an afro. Oh,
So
These are all after us.
Yes, these aren't any as early as we were there.
So what was that Time, I guess that Time magazine photo we just saw?
That was an ad
Okay.
because the guy was apparently on the board of trustees, and he put an ad in Time magazine trying to get girls to come to St. Michael's.
Are you?
Oh, Carol,
kidding
your
me?
cheerleading picture is much better than this one.
Ah,
Wow.
Who took those? Rosario, did you send those in? Those are great.
So where was the International Student Center on
North
campus?
Campus.
North Campus.
Right across from Building 800.
So was a lot of your, I guess, classes or your living on campus, did it take place in North Campus? A lot of
Oh, look at Brock.
Bonnie Brock.
It took, all our classes took place, most of them anyway, on
Yeah.
main campus. They just put us to live out of North Campus as far away as possible.
oh, you did.
No, I
that's
said that one.
That was my retirement party.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Carol and I have been doing this for 50 years.
Perfect. So
This was our 20th reunion,
I
and
didn't
it
go to
was,
this one.
Louise, I think you were there next to me.
Brock is here.
let's see.
Brock, you, and I.
Wow. Well,
That's you, Louise.
awesome. So those are just some photos we got sent in, or we found, I guess.
Okay.
Great.
Oh, I sent some, Louise.
Yeah.
Did I
Well,
not send them?
I sent the cheerleading picture to Angie.
Oh,
Okay. I don't know. Can we see those now? We did the Time magazine thing.
yeah. And the cheerleader and
Oh, you sent a bunch of them.
So
You sent all the girls, Beverly, Cynthia, Kathy, and you.
mhm.
And then we sent I sent the cheerleading picture over. Well, it doesn't matter. They used another one, which isn't any of us, but that's okay.
Okay.
Too many.
Okay. I read a cheerleading article last night in a Michaelman. I still have the Michaelman that I kept.
I'm
The
not
newspaper.
surprised.
And I read an article about the cheerleaders. And yes, we all were cheerleaders.
Yes.
And
Carol had a picture.
Carol
had a
and-
Oh,
picture.
yeah, I sent a picture.
and Cassie were the co-captains.
Right.
Somebody provided us with the sweaters, and they provided the material, and that's what I remember making. It says culottes, but I don't remember. I think they were skirts. But it was almost everybody else that was a cheerleader. So there were 11 of us, and we started out with the club under the auspices of the club football team.
Right.
Yes.
Todd, what's his name? The poor freshman that had to coach us.
Yeah, Todd.
Todd. Whatever.
It's not coming to me, but I did read the article just last night.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And the article, if it's the same article, it was written by Beverly McKnight, who was one of the other first year girls.
I remember.
Yeah, I did. And I sent, Louise, blame Louise. She's got the pictures.
I'll take a
I
picture of the article. I'll make sure I send it to you, Carol.
Yeah, I did. I sent Louisa the article and pictures of the other girls that were there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
So maybe next time.
right. So, I mean, we can jump into some more questions because we got a lot. People have a lot of questions for you ladies. So, we have a question that said, what class or faculty members do you still remember, if you do? And is there anything about them that you want to say about him, her?
Boticello, you know you're going to handle this one.
Okay, I'll start.
Go ahead.
Dr. Nick Clary was very influential. Firm, he was fair, but I loved every minute of his classes. And he was such an inspiration to me that he was one of the major reasons that I went into education and became an English teacher.
That's
And I
great.
did have a picture of the three of us, Louise, you and I, and one of the reunions.
Yes,
And
we did. In the
we
cafeteria.
get those sent. Yeah.
That's awesome. And
Professor, did you see the chat, Carol? Professor Nick Clary submitted this question. And of course, you know, back in the day, we were his first class. He had just gotten out of grad school or something. And we had
he actually did submit that question.
Yeah, hysterical. And then, of course, you know, that whole career counseling thing that his wife ended up running did not exist when we were there. I always thought that was one of the best advents to come out of the school. But it was great that, you know, she got to be a part of the school too. We loved Nick. I mean, he was scary the first time because he didn't know what he was doing and we were all terrified. We called him the Fuhrer. He was upset when we told him that. But he was very dictatorial in the beginning. But he mellowed over time.
I remember I had a French teacher that we nicknamed Poopsie. Anybody remember him?
Because I had a female French teacher that
I had a male French teacher and we called him Poopsie.
No idea.
And he taught us French. And every time he would come to the classroom, we would say, "Here comes Poopsie."
That's funny.
It was, I mean, you know, kids. But the other thing is, near the close of the school year, as I said, as things did become more challenging. I don't remember the dean's name. He wasn't
Pfeiffer.
Pfeiffer?
Dean for the classes or the deans for the students?
Academic dean was Pfeiffer.
Maybe he was the academic dean. But anyway,
Pfeiffer, yeah.
the one that I remember, what I remember most about him was that he was very kind. And I went to talk to him and to explain to him that this experience was just, it was difficult for me. And he said, "Carol, what can we do to support you?" And I almost didn't know how to answer that. But I want you to know that he totally and completely supported me. I told him that what I needed most was to make sure that I had a good GPA so that because I didn't want to stop my education, but that I could move on to another school. And he did that. He put me in classes and he just took very good care of me. And I'm so sorry I don't remember his name. And once I was able to, once I did leave. Now my dad wanted me to come back, but it was quite a cultural change. And so, but I was able to take what I had done at St. Mike's and parlay that into getting into Howard University. So I'm ever grateful to him because I think if he hadn't taken good care of me, I don't know what would have happened next, to tell you the truth. So that was something that I remember fondly about being at St. Mike's.
Well, I mean, I know some of you mentioned that you went on to education or just whatever field you may have pursued a job in after St. Mike's, but Carol, I'm sure you have students that feel the same way about the professor you had mentioned about you now. So you probably all made impacts on people and students that you've had the same way that these professors kind of their mark on you. So as a student, thank you for that. Because I have those professors as well that I still am like, that's my go-to. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. So after living in, what was it, Leninhaven 800s, what your first year building, I guess, that you lived in, where did the college house like the female students as there became more female students on campus?
Well, the second year we were there, which was our senior year, they put us in 1202.
1202, which was.
Is that Pirtle? I don't even know.
That's Pirtle.
So they put us on 1202, but they were still keeping us on North Campus. The following year, they finally integrated the girls into up on the main campus on the quad. But, and of course, the difference between the 23 of us the first year and, God, however many there were the second year, because they had a bunch of girls come in as freshmen. And they put everybody in Pirtle. We filled the building, but they were still keeping us on North Campus. I don't think it wasn't until the third year that they moved them up to the main campus.
Interesting. So what were the most popular activities or things to do during your years at St. Mike's, whether that's like after class or on the weekends or?
Survival.
I don't know, Carol, do you remember furniture being stacked up in your room over the weekend? Do you?
Uh-huh.
I wasn't involved in any of this. Rosario, you weren't.
That was an activity, I guess.
I'm so sorry. Yes, it was. It was It was part rebellion and part boredom. The five of us who had no date, couldn't go anywhere. So we used to take the furniture in the common area and stack it up in Carol's room. I'm sure she didn't think it was very funny.
Well, you have to
But it was happening.
You have to
RA
understand.
too. Carol was the RA for the first floor.
I was the RA on first floor. But first, Rosario and I were roommates upstairs.
Mhm.
And then we needed an RA on the first floor. And so I became the RA on the first floor. You have to understand the setup of building 800, or you have to understand that when you walk through the main doors, you're in this big, we called it the lounge area.
Mm-hmm.
And everything was either straight ahead down a hallway or off of two smaller hallways on the sides. So you couldn't go to the restroom without walking through the lounge, take a shower walking through the lounge, answer the payphone on the wall, and that's the only place we were allowed to have guests was on those sofas. So it was not conducive, shall we say.
Oh, there she is.
Rosario's laughing.
Yes, that was
Well, and don't forget one of the activities that we did not plan, but we certainly were party to, was the panty raid.
panty raise. I was about to say that.
And those poor little nuns from Venezuela or wherever they were from, foreign students, this tall, totally habit, everything, just freaked out because the guys from Delta House were breaking into our dorm because they thought it would be cool to pull a panty raid on the co-eds.
Mhm.
I remember that.
And
Remember?
they had no idea what it was. The nuns had no idea. They were
Absolutely
terrified.
terrible.
And I felt so badly because I needed to do something to calm them down, to help them, and didn't know what to say to them. And it
It doesn't translate well, as Rosario can tell you, it doesn't translate well into Spanish.
I completely did not understand panty raids. It just was totally outside of my 9 dots. And I'm like, what are they? And they would come through the window. Remember that?
Yes.
They would come through the window and try to scare you and all. And I'm like, what in the world?
Well, Louise and I were familiar with panty raids from Vermont College. It was nothing.
Norwich
okay.
does, yeah.
It was
I'm confused. I don't know if I should know what this is, but what was this?
What is it?
Appropriate? Is it appropriate? I don't know, but yeah, like what would
They would break into the room or to the building trying to grab women's underwear.
Oh
As
my
a
goodness.
close, just wave it around and go, look what I got. And then the rest of it was history. But I mean, they meant no harm.
right. It was
They thought it was a great
just a
prank.
prank.
Remember, we didn't have pranking per se like they do now, but it was a prank.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
And it was a lot easier if you just hung the panties out the window and they took them and ran with them. It was
You're
a
like,
lot easier.
Here you go. That's funny. So I guess we have a lot of questions around the idea of, did the female students tend to stick together, and were they all friends, or did you have male friends, or what were the dynamics between the female and male students, and if you were friends with just the female, or did you combined between the two genders? Rosario, I actually think we may be able to hear you now.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. What did I do?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm gonna turn the phone off, okay? There you
Yes, no, you're here now, so yay.
go. Okay, let me turn that. I don't know. I was playing with it a second ago, trying to figure out what I can do for you to listen, to hear me. Hold on. Okay, you were talking about friends. I mean, most of the girls were friends, okay? But some of the guys were friends too. To this date, I have some friends from those days, and I still talk to them like every Sunday, or go visit them, or they come and visit. So it was a challenge at the beginning, but it was great, and I would do it.
But we did stick together a lot, especially as I said, like going to the cafeteria and stuff. You were not likely to have other females in your class, at least that first year. But, you know, to go to the cafeteria and you always went in a group. And people just kind of, especially when you get to the senior year, everything changes. There's more females on campus. You're more into your seminars and that kind of thing. So, but that first year, there were not a lot of girls in class with us.
I was the only one in one class.
Yeah.
But it was good. I got an A, and everybody got a C or a D, so it was really good.
You know.
I'm not being an English speaker, native English speaker, you know, so it just, it felt good, really good. What can I say?
Yeah.
Well, I guess the five of us kind of, we did both. The five of us girls from Washington kind of kind of hung out together. But then we also kind of broke off and like Louise, you know, and Paulette and others that I kind of became really good friends with. So I think I kind of floated, if you will, between the two. But the other thing that we got to do, and I was telling Louise, we often left campus and we went to Montreal. And in Montreal, that's where a lot of the expatriates were living that didn't want to go fight in the war. And a lot of those, they had, what do they call it, Louise? They had clubs there.
Nightclubs and stuff.
Nightclubs in Montreal.
Yeah.
And so we would go to the nightclubs and leave campus and go up to Montreal to the nightclubs. And because there were a lot of blacks that left that didn't go to the war, it was like going home, because it was, you know, the music was the same. All of it was very familiar. But we did that. So I think some of us kind of stuck with one group, but I really think I was a floater. I kind of hung out with more people, I think.
That's good. You make more connections, you meet more people, so being a floater is
That's
fun. Rosario, I have some more questions for you. So now that your audio is back,
yes,
I'm so happy.
I can talk.
I know, I'm so happy. So we have a question. What was the most difficult part of being the first female students on campus? I mean, we already asked that question, but I would love to hear just like your side, what the most difficult part was for you.
I really didn't have a difficult part. It was just so great. No, it was a challenge because I didn't speak the language. You know, first time I go into the dining room, it was just a bunch of guys sitting down with you, trying to talk to you. And I don't understand. And all I can say is I don't understand. Okay, so months went by and I started, you know, understanding more and more. 2 months, I think I was speaking. I was saying things, and so it felt really good. Everybody was trying to help. I would help them, help the guys with Spanish, and they would help me with English. So it was a trade-off. So it was a lot of fun. I think the challenge, it was really the cafeteria, or going from the bus that we had from the main campus to the North Campus. We were waiting for all the guys to look at the windows when the girls were coming by, you know, so we just trying to say hi to everybody. It was a lot of fun. It was just no challenges, it was just a very good learning experience.
And somebody asked the question when we were talking about the cafeteria before, did we feel unsafe?
No, not at all.
No, never.
Not at all.
No.
There were other times, okay? Before, they just not compared to today. It was
Oh,
just so
absolutely.
much fun.
Right.
Uh-huh.
No, it was different. You know, I was telling the ladies before, the food was different.
It was great.
And
A lot.
it was, and this was, I asked them what did they think was the strangest food that I had to eat at St. Mike's. And they were like, okay, BLTs. I had never, ever had a BLT. I didn't know what it was. I didn't even understand. Why would you put bacon and lettuce and tomatoes on toast bread and eat it? Until I had one. And now I eat BLTs all the time, you know. Then we didn't, and then we had something called mystery meat. Anybody else remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh.
You know,
No,
but
thank you.
Rosario.
yeah, but the nicest thing was like one semester, once a year, they had this celebration in the cafeteria, and they brought out all the real good food. Remember that? It was some kind of celebration, and they would have roast beef and
Mm.
just really good food. It was like a tradition at the school.
Right. I mean, that's funny because I'm a student at St. Mike's right now, so we still have like some traditions. I don't know if it was during like Thanksgiving or Christmas, but they do that for us where we have like a Thanksgiving dinner and they bring out like the best food.
Yeah.
And
I
then
remember-
Christmas dinner and it's the best food and you're like, oh, I need to
Oh, yeah, it was like, yeah, I remember it was like real food. This is great.
And we also had steak every Sunday. Do you remember
Yes,
that?
I remember. Yes, I
Steak
remember
on
that.
Sunday with all the fixins, and it was really
Yeah,
a good
it was
meal.
really good. So,
Danny Hanovan worked in the kitchen, and we couldn't wait to get our
yeah,
Well,
Sundays.
good
Yeah,
old days. That's all I can say.
yes, yes,
What's that?
yes. So
yeah.
Love
it was interesting. It was, and sunny side up eggs. Nope, never had them.
Pizza. I never had pizza
Yeah, yeah.
when I came over there. No,
Sure.
from Mexico, you don't have. Well, in those days you didn't have pizza.
Yeah.
I would get my parents to ship me some jalapeno peppers and stuff, and I would open the can and everybody was trying to taste them, and no, didn't work out very well.
Do you remember Christmas caroling on the quad?
Yes. That was a sensation.
We thought that we were going to bring a little bit of Christmas spirit to the quad that first year. So we all held candles. We all went down to the middle of the quad and we started to sing Christmas carols.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I'm sure. Mm,
Do you want to know what happened?
Yes,
yes.
of course.
We had some favorable yells out the windows. We had some
Calling.
Lions
Yeah.
Club, Lions.
not some favorable calls out the windows.
Mhm.
And we had some water thrown out the windows.
Oh,
And we finally decided they're not ready for this yet. So we decided to go to the cafeteria and have hot chocolate instead.
Well, the following year, we had that Christmas party. That was a world of difference.
Yes. Yes, a world of difference in 1 year.
Yep. World of difference.
Yep.
So we're almost at 8 o'clock. So we have about 10 minutes, 15 minutes left. But Rosario, I think some people might have, they weren't able to hear your little spiel you gave in the beginning of the call. So we have a couple questions of where you came from, where you're originally from, and then how you heard about St. Mike's, if you want to touch upon that.
Okay, I'm from Mexico, and my grandfather wanted me to learn English. Okay, he said that the great opportunity, you have to learn English. So I started looking, and a friend of mine had been there before, Florencia Schwartz. Okay, she told me about the school. So, but so, okay, that's great. If she's saying it's great, it's okay, then I'll apply and I'll go there. The thing that she didn't tell me was all male school. She told me about the international part, but not the all male college on the side, right? So when I actually had never flown in my life, I didn't speak a word of English, and when I took the red-eye plane, 3 o'clock in the morning, and went to Boston. Well, my mother was crying and all that kind of stuff, and I was happy. I was happy. Anyway, but it was an adventure because when I got to Burlington, they told me they were going to be waiting for me there, and there was nobody there waiting for me. So I had to call the school. However, I could manage it. I said my name. This is Rosario. I'm at the airport. Okay. So they came to get me. And finally, a guy from Puerto Rico came with Mr. La Charite. And they picked me up and started showing me the school. But when I told my mom it was an all-male school over there, it was not very happy, but I was learning English, so it worked fine. It was just great. No problem. An adventure because, I got to fly. I got to go out, leave the house. I got to being from an all-girls school, going to an all-male school. Yeah. There was another thing, you learn pretty fast.
Right.
I guess.
And now look at you. It's 2020, and you're sitting on a Zoom call celebrating.
Yeah,
would you have even thought of?
I try to go up there often. I go and visit Philip Locadio in Cape Cod, mm-hmm. or I go to Seattle, Washington to visit Danny Donovan. Then they come over here. Carol went to my house to Chihuahua for once, and Philip Locadio did too. So it's just good friends and good times and good memories.
Wonderful friendships. There are two people that we have to mention that absolutely were instrumental in being there for us, and that's Father Ray Dougherty.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how many times I had wonderful, uplifting, positive talks with him, and Dean Don Sutton, and they were both fairly new in their positions at that time.
I remember them very well.
And I said to Angie, I thought that she should have Don Sutton involved in this because he would certainly have some stories about building 800.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't been printed.
Oh, yeah. He can tell you some stories.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Really would.
We'll have to do a part 2 of this next
year.
Yeah.
We got to get more pictures and more people involved. And we just, maybe some other international students that I've been looking for some, but I cannot find some of them. So, but maybe we can all get together.
That's enough. You found Chip tonight.
So before we wrap this up, I guess, if you just all want to go around, give any last final stories or comments, and then just what was the greatest benefit of being a graduate of St. Mike's for you? Anyone wants to start?
Well, I didn't graduate from St. Michael's, but I graduated from, St. Michael's International School with English, okay? And then I came to UTEP, to the University of Texas at El Paso, okay? And, but I wish I was there, I can say. But it was a lot of fun.
I guess for me is I made a lifetime friend.
Yes.
You know,
we still talk every day.
We do. And you know, we've been through life's ups and downs. We really have been. And Louise has really been my rock through some very difficult experiences, because I have a son that's autistic, and she did so much to help me to learn to manage him. And she was the first one that actually was able to get him to settle. She got his behavior, under control. She was able to model behaviors on trying to help him settle. So that's what I would have to say is that I am grateful that I made the trip to Vermont, if for no other reason than to have met and have a lifetime friend, because we can go back and laugh about so many things, and reminisce about when, you remember when,
And yet we've helped each other through the contemporary issues.
Yes.
One of the things that we say to each other often now that we're at this advanced age, you know, going through life, well, gee, we wouldn't have thought about this when we were like this when we were 30 something, even 40 something. But now that we're up there, you know, our perspective is different and we see things differently. And it's good to have somebody to bounce that sort of thing off with. But, you know, she and I have been doing this for a long time. And over the years, we've had years where we didn't talk every day because life was going on. And, but we've been doing this for a year, and it's wonderful to have a rock. In fact, I called her earlier today and I said, well, my son's going to be over there on Sunday. My son, I have 3 kids in 3 time zones, 4 grandchildren in 3 time zones. And my son, my oldest son, lives in Maryland, and Carol is giving him a bunch of furniture for his first apartment. And she said, but you remember when you brought those bunk beds down for my kids? And I drove bunk beds from Connecticut to Maryland.
She did. Yes, she did.
And so I was so touched that she would do this for my son. And I just said, see, this is what friends do. And who knew? Because we lived in that wacky dorm back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was such a life-altering experience. And I think it much being at St. Michael's, yes, but being in that 800 was just.
Yeah.
That just goes to prove that those friendships have stayed so strong over the years, particularly with us. You and I and Bonnie have kept in touch over the years. Some of the guys we have had close friendships with, we've kept in touch with over the years. So there were those strong bonds that were formed because of the times. It was the 1970s, early 1970s. There was so much unrest going on in the world. There was Kent State. There was on campus. There was talk of the students having their own code of conduct when we first started going there. I don't know if all of this was in the background of adding women to the college. So the students were fighting the administration to have their own code of conduct. There was much turmoil going on at this point in time, and yet we were there facing the challenges that we face, and we had to be strong, and we had to stick together. And most of that made us who we are today.
And I thank you guys, and so many people on the chat are just like giving so much love right now. They're like, this is great. So thank you so much for sharing your stories. And it's just crazy as a student, like now it's just crazy to hear your stories, and it makes me like hopeful for my future. And just it's just funny because you're talking about the hard times, I guess, that you did face when you initially started this journey, but tonight we were just able to mostly focus on like the good times and the good memories. And that's, I mean,
but you know what, the bad times were not really even that bad. We're not, I mean, we all kind of got through it together, and like Carol said, with trying to Christmas carol on main campus and realizing, oh, these guys are not ready for this yet, so all right, fine, see ya. I mean, it was, you know, it was all doable.
Yeah, and you know what, I'm sure they'd take anything to hear you singing Christmas carols on that quad right now. So don't worry. So if no one has anything does anyone have any last minute?
I just want to thank you for doing this. I think that you stepped in front of a moving bus, but you know, thank you for doing it.
I'm so happy this is the thing. I think it's great.
Thank you. We should do it again. We should do it again.
So before we do go, my sincere thanks to our panelists tonight. So we have Carol Johnson, Carol Dixon, and then Louise Stafford, and then Rosario Gongoro, who I'm so happy you're all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. So please, to everyone watching, and then obviously to our panelists, just stay tuned for more events to mark the 50th anniversary of our co-education at St. Mike's. This is one of the first.
Keep in touch.
There'll be more. So yes, thank you so much. This was.
Thank you.
I'm gonna remember this. This is gonna be a highlight of my career at St. Mike's. So
that's great.
Oh wow, that's awesome. See, we still make an impression. Isn't that amazing?
Amazing.
Thank you.
We'd love that.
Thank you again.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
We'll chat tomorrow.
Bye, Carol.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Rosario.
Bye,
Bye.
bye, Carol. We'll
Up
talk.
there.
I'll call you, Carol.
Yes.
Dixon. Okay. Talk to you
Okay.
later.
All
Bye.
right. Bye-bye.
Okay, we're done.
Bye, Louise.